Here's the response from Wall Street. Hate it.
We all know Trump lies, but the numbers don't. And for tiny fingers, it's all bad news. Tariff! There are new numbers out that reflect the FUBAR first 4 months of Trump's second presidency. And how do you say it? What's the word? They suck. A total of 41% of Americans say they approve of the way Man-Titties is handling the job as president, but 55% say they disapprove. This all according to the latest numbers from the American Research Group. Now, I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking the same. How can 41% of eligible voters look at the last 120 days and not see anything but the absolute disaster he's unleashed? Good question, right? And we'll get into a list of the real damages in just a minute. But first, let's look at those numbers. If 41% approve, that means there are 69% who theoretically disapprove, except the poll numbers say 55% disapprove. So what is that 14% thinking? How can you not have an opinion? Did you know that more than 100 million people who were eligible to vote sat on their hands, even though the polls showed 90% of them would never have voted for Trump? I know, why?
Americans are very contradictory creatures. We admire the founding fathers with an almost cult-like devotion, and yet huge numbers of us don't participate in the representative democracy they pioneered. We have one of the lowest voter turnout rates in the developed world, ranking 26th out of 32 countries. If Didn't Vote had been a candidate in the 2016 election, it would have won by a landslide. In fact, Didn't Vote would have won every single presidential election in the last 100 years. In 2016, only about 56% of eligible voters cast a ballot. So what happened to the more than 100 million people who didn't vote? Recent surveys and studies show that among many factors, there are 3 major reasons why people don't vote. Reason number 1, they believe voting doesn't make a difference. Among non-voters, especially young ones, this is the number 1 reason for staying home on election day. According to recent surveys, roughly 2/3 of non-voters say they don't pay much attention to politics because it is so corrupt. Only 22% of voters believe the two-party system does a good job of representing the will of the American people. This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People refuse to participate, which reduces their representation in government, which adds to their sense that they are not being represented, which then reinforces their lack of participation. Reason number 2, the system discourages participation. The most accurate predictor of whether someone will vote or not isn't race, ethnicity, age, or gender. It's their level of education and income. As a rule, wealthy college-educated people vote at much higher rates than low-income uneducated individuals. The result is that low-income communities have a harder time getting fair representation at every level of government. Again, it's a vicious circle.
So as bad as Trump's approval numbers are, the number of people who didn't vote, that's worse. I mean, what does it take for you to get out and vote? I mean, I don't mean you, because if you're watching this, you probably voted. I mean, so what does it take for people to set aside their cynicism and just look at the facts? When people vote, rich people don't get richer. Poor people have more opportunities, and the general physical and mental health of the nation improves dramatically. Of the 41% of Americans who approve of the way Trump is handling his job as president, 33% they expect the national economy will be better a year from now, and 46% say they expect the national economy will be worse in a year from now. In February of 2025, 46% of those approving the way Trump was handling his job said they expected the national economy would be better in a year. Did you follow all that? Also, did you know that in Australia, it's illegal to not vote, which of course Republicans would hate, because when more people vote, they lose.
If you don't vote, you'll be on the hook for a $20 fine. Want to keep the cash in your pocket? It's easy. Just vote at the next referendum. It's compulsory to vote at a referendum, just like an election. Voting at a referendum is as easy as writing yes or no, and there are lots of ways to have your say. If you can't make it to a polling place on voting day, there are other options. Hundreds of early voting centres will be open before polling day. Of course, postal voting will also be available. Our mobile polling teams will also be visiting remote communities across Australia. If you're overseas, in-person and postal voting will be available. And we have telephone voting available for people who are blind or have low vision. It's all part of delivering democracy for Australia.
Okay, so let's knock those numbers out of our head and just talk plain facts. Trump is in the process of dismantling the economy with tariffs.
Tariffs. To me, I think it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary. More beautiful than love. It will make our country extremely wealthy again.
But as you should know, tariffs are a tax on you, regular people.
One of the attractions that people don't seem to really understand why Trump loves tariffs so much is that historically, tariffs are the biggest driver of political corruption. Because every single interest goes hat in hand and either asks for an exemption to tariffs or asks that their competition get tariffed. It is a way to beseech those in power for special pleading. And that, I think, is the economic philosophy of this administration.
And so Trump is attacking businesses like Walmart, telling them they have to eat the tariff, a phrase he usually uses on first dates.
Drop your pants.
And of course, Walmart is the nation's largest employer. So if they can't raise prices, they'll lay off people. And the stock market down 12% from when he took office. That's more than $4 trillion he made go poof.
I could be a stupid person.
You got time? There's more. Trump then fired 100,000 federal employees, of which 65% live in red states. And also red state farmers who voted for Trump. Not so happy.
Rick Tellez runs a 750-acre family farm in western Pennsylvania with his father and uncle. They have dairy cattle and grow crops. But nothing is more financially important than the nearly 300 acres of soybeans.
What percentage of your soybeans is exported?
100% of my beans.
100%?
Right.
And he believes almost all of it has gone to China over the years. But with President Trump's tariff war, China is no longer buying U.S. soybeans. Income has plunged 20% on this farm over the last year because of that.
When you're operating on margins of less than single-digit percentage margins, 20% is very devastating. I don't know of any business out there, any businessman out there would keep his doors open, where he would have to take his own equity out of his own
and that's what you're doing?
Yes, the farm's using the equity it's built up over the years just to survive.
If the election were today, Frank, would you vote for Donald Trump?
No way. Couldn't happen.
No.
An increasing number of farmers nationwide are frustrated with the president's trade war with China and how his tariff decisions have affected their lives.
And just this week, Trump's pick for Health and Human Services.
That RFK said doctors found a worm in his brain that had eaten part of his brain and then died.
RFK Jr. is an avowed anti-vaxxer who's pushing to remove fluoride from the water, fired thousands from NIH and the CDC, allowed a measles outbreak to become a national epidemic, and just this week is limiting access to COVID shots.
Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question.
And then, of course, Trump is getting birthday presents from terrorists, abandoning Ukraine, playing footsie with Putin, and abandon our NATO allies. So what's next? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But first, I grew up with 4 older sisters and a single mom in a 3-bedroom apartment. That's 5 women. I didn't go to the bathroom for 14 years. And I remember my sisters helping my mom through Medicare and how frustrating it was. And then I watched each of them deal with it on their own. But now my turn's coming. And honestly, I thought it was pretty smart, but even I couldn't figure it out. So many plans, confusing rules, penalties if you mess up. It shouldn't be that hard. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Chapter. Guys, I wish I'd known this sooner. I did my research and I found that Chapter is hands down the best help for Medicare. So whether you're already on Medicare right now, or maybe you're turning 65 soon, or maybe it's your parents, these Chapter advisors are ready and willing to help you, to walk you through everything. Look, I know Medicare is complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So if you want real, unbiased help with Medicare, give Chapter a call at 816-953-0071. It's right up on your screen. You'll talk to a real person who will help you figure out exactly what plan is right for you. There's no pressure, there's no gimmicks. And guess what? Chapter is completely independent. They advocate for you, not insurance companies. And the best part is Chapter saved the average senior over $1,000 a year. So give them a call today at that number, 816-953-0071. Again, that's Chapter at 816-953-0071. Again, it's completely free, so you have nothing to lose.
And this doesn't include deliberate efforts by lawmakers across the country, more often Republicans, to lower turnout among low-income populations and minorities.
What do you have to do to get people to vote? Threaten them like Australia? Maybe, but isn't that pathetic considering the country we live in? While Trump threatens us with deportations and suspending habeas corpus, even when no one in his cabinet has a clue what that is.
But I do think the Constitution allows them the right to consider it.
Do you know what section of the Constitution the suspension clause of habeas corpus is in?
I do not. Nope.
Do you know which article it is in?
No, I do not, sir.
What we need to do is show people that voting pays off, because there's nothing these pustulant skin tags fear more than an enlightened populace. I'm very rich. If you're in the top 1%, you probably hate me, but honestly, that warms my heart. These billionaires and oligarchs, they need to be exposed, and what better way than by taxing the hell out of them? Because when you do that, you pay less and get more. I mean, just look at them. Doesn't it make you want to kick some ass?
Damn right.
Trump is a sexual predator.
You're a nasty person.
We're a nation that speaks English.
Back and look, if something like that thing start goggling.
Tariff.
You're an idiot.
Goddamn right.
Drop your pants.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.